Well, good evening. Ira Epstein, and I'm back from my COVID experience. We'll talk about that in a minute. It is Monday, the 19th of August, 2024, 6:45 p.m. Central Time. Yeah, I got put down. I took a trip for my friend to set the world record in a Lamborghini in a half-mile course, straight course, and he didn't do it. I got COVID, meanwhile, on the way there. Apparently, it broke out. I was in bed one night at 5:30 at the track the next day. I mean, that's what I went there for. And his rival set the record, 261 miles an hour. And I did get to go down the course, not in one of those cars, but a Porsche Turbo. And flat out, as much as you can go in speed, straight line for a half mile. It is thrilling, to say the least. And then had to drive home ill, and I went right to bed, and I was knocked out the whole week. But I'm better. I still have a lingering cough. I had lost taste buds, smell. They came back on Sunday. Today's Monday. And, I love doing this, so you can imagine I was frustrated. Tried talking, and if you heard my morning subscriber videos, and those did go out, I'm able to hit pause, cough, hit record, talk a little bit, hit pause, and that's what I did. I can't do that with these. It doesn't work that way. So, in the time I was gone, you know what's happened. You do remember the market sort of caved in when Japan went up in their interest rates, also saying they're going to lift they're tailoring back all their security purchases, and the unwind trade carried the stock market down for a number of days. In the NASDAQ, you actually went down over 10%. You come back that whole amount. This is the quickest recovery from a correction mode, which is a 10% from a peak to a decline of over 10%, especially on a closing basis, and back up where you're out of the correction since 2011. So weird, to say the very least. Are we void of information? Yes. Is this a strange occurrence? Without question. Did anything really change in the whole time? Well, it did, because the yen is 68, so we can view that as something. In fact, last night it went up about 100 points. I have no idea why, and I don't look for reasons, big ones, at this time of the year. And the reason is, understand, you're at the end of summer. In some cases, kids have gone back to school. I know in some of the suburbs of Chicago, that is the case. In most cases, you're just wrapping up all your summer affairs, your trips are over, you're about to get ready to September grind, and away you go. Before you know it, you'll be putting away that lawn furniture in October, November. But that's where we're at in things. Now, today I did take a walk at lunchtime to Union Park in Chicago. If you read tomorrow, you'll hear about the protesters, where they're staged in Chicago for the DNC convention. From where I live, I can walk there, I swear to you, 3 minutes. I'm not exaggerating the time. If anything, I'm a little lengthy. And we're talking hundreds and hundreds of police. I'm sure the National Guard is in a staging area. They generally are. So the protesters were there. You know, it reminds me of how old I am, because when I went there, I look at all the young kids. They're primarily college kids. You see the professional protesters. They know each other. They come, they give the knocks of the hands. You see it. You see the gear they carry with them. It's different than the other protesters. And the march did take place. I hadn't left at that time, but I can tell you, the police were cordial. If you go up and talk to them, they were friendly as can be. They're in masks, there's no question about it. And there's police, and then there's the riot police. They have them broken into groups. There are thousands upon thousands in the city now from all over the state. So if you're looking for a problem, you will find it. They tried to break some fences down and succeeded. And 4 people, 4, not 40, not 400, 4 people got arrested. If you're a pro-demonstrator, your goal here is to get arrested. So those 4 got arrested. The rest is going smooth, and that's how we want it to go. We'll see what happens. Like I say, I'm within shouting distance of all this. So it's interesting what the stock market did. When we take a look, you see that the market fell while I was ill. You came down, you challenged the weekly chart right here, the 18-week average of closes, and you turned back. How often do we do that? We did it back here. Here you went through it one time, and that's September, November of 23. And you did get under it. This time you did not. Now, the big question for a lot of traders is going to be, can we get a close that's higher than that one, or do we come up here, not quite do that, and sink back down, which could start something of a correction? Not saying it has to happen. It's things I think traders will be looking at. You've got a V bottom. I mean, any other way you want to call it, I wish you the best, but there's nothing here. Could this turn out to be sort of a head and shoulder formation, where a pair of shoulder may be here, a head here, and if you broke down through here, you could, but I think it's stretching it. I think you just got what we'll call a V bottom, where the market, after it plunged off again, the carry trade noise that we heard, you ended up with higher lows, and then the market every single day ran up. So had I been able to speak, what was I going to say? You're making a higher high every day, and all of a sudden you've gone back from this whole break, and you've corrected over 10% from the low. You're out of the correction. In markets that corrected 10%, okay? NASDAQ is certainly one of those. When you look at what the S&P did, and I left this chart intentionally large, you came down, you challenged the 200-day average, came back, and you never even stopped at the 18. I mean, you didn't even take a breath of air. You just kept going up. Now, in order for you to catch a trade like this, you had to take your dart, throw it at the board and say, I'm so smart, I can buy a low in the market. Well, I guess you were smart enough to sell the high. You bought the low and back up. My point is, you don't worry about those things. This is an unusual occurrence. Rack it up as such. When we come to Bollinger Bands, if the market wants to continue up, I look for resistance at 56.95, the upper Bollinger Band. And if the market wants to back off because it is overbought, well, support weights 54.01, 54.46. I think you'll have a hard time convincing a lot of traders, just jump in. Where do you put a stop if you do that? Tell me. You're going to put it down here? That's an awful lot of money to be risking. I think you've left a lot of traders in their dust if they're not in. In the NASDAQ, you're honing in on the upper Bollinger Band. You're overbought. It's the same pattern that the S&P had. The Dow is just a shade different, but it's the same thing. You basically hit the 200-day average in the Bollinger Band. I told you in that zone is where I thought the pros would cover shorts. Go back. The videos are right there. You tell me what I said when that happened. I was looking for first support here, and if that didn't hold, then down here. I didn't see the straight up move coming, but who did? I mean, it just straightened away. Okay, let it finish off at whatever it's going to do. And what's not joining the parade so far is the Russell 2000. So again, went to the party. Darn it, I didn't get the date I wanted. This just isn't moving with everything. When we take a look at the 10-year notes, the pattern's crystal clear. Higher lows, lower highs. I don't know what to do with that. 5-year note actually has lower highs, and it's trying to make lower lows right into support at the 18-day average. So the market's left the real short-term low interest rate and added some yield back, but so far nothing to worry about. I mean, if this is where the market's going to consolidate, it's pretty exciting. It's no longer down at 105. It's consolidating in the 108 area. When we come to the dollar index, those falling interest rates are weighing on the dollar. The Fed chair talks. We have the Fed symposium. The Kansas City Fed holds the Jackson Hole Symposium starting Friday. Keynote speaker will be Fed Chair Powell. Can he make a big speech? He can. But what he's probably going to just say is that the Fed's looking at the other side now. They don't want to see too much weakness in the labor. The inflation is gone in the direction that they've wanted to see it going. If the data keeps pouring in, there's no reason to the Fed to not be cutting interest rates and taking away the restriction on the economy so it doesn't tip over. In other words, they've got to get ahead of the curve. That's the speech I'm expecting him to deliver, and the market's building that in and taking the dollar down on it. Remember, sell the rumor, buy the news. Just a thought process for you. In the eurocurrency, it's the flip-flop. It's a run to the upside as the U.S. is late to the party and everybody else is cutting their interest rates. Okay? You're overbought. Be careful. I would never tell one of my clients that I like to buy a Bollinger Band. Could it go higher? Sure. But in this type of market and overbought, let it embed, and then I'd rather come in on a break and buy the market, and if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, than buying an overbought condition into that. Let the condition change. In the British pound, you're all the way back up to the strength in the pound right now. Now, Mr. Bailey will be speaking at the symposium. So we'll see what they have to say. We'll have other central bankers there. It's going to be a big, important weekend that we watch to see how the bankers are talking. But I think the theme will be cutting interest rates, watching the labor market, keeping your eye on inflation, and not getting ahead to the point where you cut rates so much you reinflate. That is not what people want to do. They want to watch their labor markets and help them along, but not inflate. In Bitcoin, market is still under a bearish enthusiasm. And if you're a Bitcoin enthusiast, you got to be going like this. Why is gold at an all-time high and Bitcoin isn't? You got to be scratching your head. In energies, so again, we get a conversation from Mr. Blinken that Israel has agreed to the terms of a peace deal. That is maybe an hour news old. And this is right now, what time am I? I'm at almost about 6:53, right in that area. Okay. Well, I don't know. Okay, I don't know what they've agreed to, anybody. But the energy market is looking at this as one ugly setup. And it could be setting up that the Brent stays closer to 75 when we go back into the $70, $71 excuse me there, area. And that would not be a surprise to me. Gasoline, the driving season's over. I mentioned that to you before I got ill. And I said, whatever it's going to do, it's going to do. But it's not going to be there. What you want to start turning your attention to now is away from this, and maybe we switch over to the distillates, because soon the heating oil comes into play. Natural gas, you're at a funny time of the year. I know it's rallied, but you don't need the air conditioner as much in many parts of the country, and you don't need your heat yet. So I see a market caught in a trading range within those Bollinger Bands. It's overbought, really not going anywhere too much too fast. Want to remind one and all that we have our free offers, and there's one after the other. All you need to do is go to iraepstein.com, and on the top left, free offers. At any point here as I'm talking, you can move your cursor up. There'll be an icon. Give it a click. You can get the different charting software packages, access to my research, Linn research, price counts, the different free trading courses that we have, and we do have those. You put it all together with our price counts, which I think is something you should take a look at, and maybe some seasonalities, and you start putting a game plan. You know, grains have been falling out of bed. You ever hear of the word harvest lows? Why? Put it all together. So how do you get this? Again, go to iraepstein.com, free offers, choose what you'd like. You can move your cursor up here, give the icon a click, and I'll catch up with you all in the morning. Take care now.